Ahsoka Tano is getting her very own TV show. She's a fan-favorite character, and the Star Wars fandom seems to be united in their excitement for her 8-episode show, premiering on August 23rd. How did Ahsoka transform from an annoying, hated character to a beloved character? And where does she even fit in the Skywalker saga? Was she even necessary? It seems obvious that George Lucas and Dave Filoni did not just mess with the idea of throwing in an apprentice to Anakin. Anakin's character was very different through the 2-year span between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. His force abilities and skills with the lightsaber had improved drastically. He also seemed to be a little different emotionally. His interactions with Obi-Wan seemed more like true friendship than constant competition. When Anakin was with Padme, he was less whiny and creepy as they just functioned like a normal couple rather than the weirder scenes they had in the previous movie. Anakin seemed more stoic, but most importantly, he seemed like he understood he had responsibilities. Besides from the scene with Padme in the beginning of the movie where he says he doesn't care if people know he's married, overall he seemed like he knew his duties. Now this can just be marked up to character development and growth, as we can all assume that he had just become more jaded through the 2-year war. And yes, that's some of it, as his war experiences and battles with the lightsaber made him an overall more powerful Jedi. Now Anakin quickly turned to the dark side because of his wife's seemingly certain death, but he did truly think about his choices, as he even turned Palpatine into Mace Windu, and don't forget, he didn't even go to the Chancellor's office to assist in killing Mace. He was totally open to arresting him. Mind you, this is the same character who almost jumped out of an LAAT gunship because Padme fell out.
Padme! Put the ship down! Anakin! Don't let your personal feelings get in the way.
How did this character change so drastically? Where, at least, he considered his decisions. This is where the Clone Wars TV show comes out, and this is where they put the character of Ahsoka in. Ahsoka and Anakin form a strong bond, however, Anakin having a Padawan doesn't necessarily mean that his character will change in the slightest. Anakin could just teach her how to use the lightsaber better, he could teach her things about the Force, and he could have her at his side at all times in battle. None of these things directly mean that he will have changed. But Anakin did change. This is because Ahsoka is almost a direct reflection of Anakin, which results in Anakin having to basically teach himself how to be more patient and follow orders and fulfill responsibilities. So in the beginning of the Clone Wars, Ahsoka was very snotty and annoying. Usually Star Wars takes the approach of making a character weak and useless and then they become the hero. Dave took a different approach as Ahsoka seemed to be full of herself and believes that she's already very talented. Anakin struggles teaching her in the beginning as she seems to think there's not much she can learn from him. Now Anakin doesn't really pull her back at all in the beginning. Like I stated earlier, Ahsoka is a reflection on Anakin. So in the first season, Anakin and Ahsoka basically run around recklessly. If you notice, Ahsoka's character develops very quickly, and that's because of some events. One event is when she was the commander of about a dozen Republic fighters. She led an attack on a separatist ship. She makes some ridiculous orders and fails the mission and loses almost all of her clones. She feels very guilty, and this presents the real first teaching moment from Anakin as he explains how those clones were under her protection and she failed them by her reckless actions. This really changed Ahsoka as she developed the skill of putting other people above herself. This is not the only thing Anakin taught Ahsoka. Ahsoka at many points disagreed with the Council and stated that directly to them. Anakin would explain to Ahsoka that it's useless to argue with them. He wants her to follow their orders, but if you think the right thing is not to follow the orders, do it. She really found out how much Anakin cared about her is when Anakin would willingly open the holocron to all the Force-sensitive children just to save her life. She already learned not to put others' lives at risk, but when she chased Cad Bane and got separated from Anakin, she got defeated. She then understood that risking her own life not only could fail a mission, but it could also risk Anakin and clones' lives as they would try to rescue her. This is where she learned to not be so impulsive. So emotionally, she developed through dark experiences, but also through Anakin trying not to have her make the same mistakes that he did. So in Clone Wars Season 7, she beat Maul in a fight. How did she get this powerful? Did it feel earned? Yes, 100%. Her beating Maul felt totally deserved, and it didn't surprise anyone. This is because of the large number of battles that she participated in. She has been in war, she has seen death. She has seen so many scary things. So first of all, she doesn't fear Maul at all. And combat-wise, well, she's been through a lot of combat with her lightsaber. She lost her first 4 lightsaber fights, which includes General Grievous and Asajj Ventress. And no, she didn't hold her own at all. She barely survived. She had 11 lightsaber fights in the Clone Wars and has 17-ish fights her whole life. Jedi of the old times fought 0 or 1 battle in their whole life. Ahsoka has so much battle experience. Every fight she would do a little better until she could hold her own. Then she got to a point where she could win battles, and she was close to even beating Darth Vader. But Dave never made her overpowered, as the 2 interactions she had with General Grievous didn't really change. She got destroyed and was easily overpowered, which shows how powerful Obi-Wan was to have defeated General Grievous. So with the Clone Wars being a long show, Dave Filoni and the many amazing writers and story developers managed to show Ahsoka's almost flawless character development. We heard from Dave Filoni that Ahsoka may be alive even after the rise of Skywalker. He explained just because we could hear her voice in the finale of the trilogy, it doesn't mean necessarily that she is dead. But let's say that she does die. It would probably be in the movie Dave's writing and directing. But what's interesting is Ahsoka shouldn't even be alive. The main reason Ahsoka was included in Star Wars was because, like stated earlier, she changed Anakin for the better. And it seems George really only wanted her for that purpose. Dave Filoni has said that George rather she would die. Dave doesn't specify if George wanted her to die in battle or in Order 66, but it was clear that George didn't want her to be a part of Star Wars anymore as it could mess with canon. So Dave sort of compromised. He had her leave the Order because of her being accused of committing a lot of crimes and being found not guilty, but she still lost trust in the Jedi for not believing her. This again also added to Anakin's character as he realized that walking away was a total option. Not only that, but I also think he lost more trust in the Council for not believing in Ahsoka. Again, representing how much of importance Ahsoka had on Anakin. So Ahsoka left at the end of the 5th season, then they made a 6th season. This season was not so great. It had its moments with Yoda, but it was sort of sloppy. There were no mentions of Ahsoka at all, and it seemed like Anakin had just moved on. This really surprised me as I thought he would be very upset. I think Lucasfilm did this because they wanted Ahsoka's separation from the Jedi to be sort of a forgotten thing, so it doesn't seem weird that Anakin didn't bring her up at all in Revenge of the Sith. Either way, the season just kind of existed, but rightfully so. Dave and George wanted to conclude the story of these characters in the Clone Wars. So George was gone. Dave put Ahsoka in Rebels. She was wiser and very mysterious. This goes to show that since George isn't there, Dave can really do what he wanted, and that was to keep Ahsoka alive. She serves the story well with the Ghost Squadron, and her moment with Vader was perfect. Vader did not emotionally open up to her at all, but at least acknowledged that they were at one point master and apprentice. I think she was necessary in Rebels, but I do have mixed opinions on her not dying in Rebels. First of all, the world between worlds is a little confusing and an odd concept. But also, she could have died a really good hero. Dave clearly had other plans with her character. She made appearances in the Clone Wars Season 7, The Mandalorian Season 2, and Tales of the Jedi. She is also, of course, getting her own show and will most likely be a main protagonist in Dave Filoni's movie. Clearly, even though she has had so many moments where her death was on the cards, she continues to survive every time and hopefully for good reason. Ahsoka keeps living and fighting, and this is leaving fans very excited for her very own show. The show seems to not only have deep effects on Ahsoka as a character, but also the state of the galaxy. From just the trailers, we can see that there's going to be a struggle with the New Republic, as they are probably going to be stubborn and not help against Thrawn. Thrawn is probably going to be really scary and of course very intelligent. Ahsoka will have a lot on her hands, but it's safe to say that Ahsoka can handle a lot, as we've seen through her enormous amount of screen time. It's cool that the Ahsoka show will be a continuation to the Rebels show. I wonder what it will be like for Ahsoka and the Ghost Squadron if Ezra isn't the same Ezra that we left off with in the finale of Star Wars Rebels. A big problem with Star Wars, it seems that Lucasfilm is just pumping out projects. A lot of the shows and movies just don't seem to have the why. Why even tell this story? Is this story going to help the characters or just confuse fans and make them wonder why a certain character feels so different than they used to? Luckily for the Ahsoka Show, it doesn't seem like that's going to be a problem. Since 1991, the idea of the Empire not being truly dead has floated around. So has the idea of Thrawn. There's certainly a need for this show, as it could explain if those Imperial remnants get destroyed or they just transition into the First Order. Fans are very excited, and they have really good reasons. Thanks to every single person who's watching this analysis on the character of Ahsoka and her importance. It is certain that Ahsoka is 100% necessary in Star Wars, as she has many purposes. If you have any questions about where Ahsoka has been and what has changed her as a person, I hope this video clarified those things. If there's anything I missed or something I should have touched on, feel free to leave it in the comments to help other people who watch this video. May the Force be with you, and have a great rest of your day.